Hey, good morning again. Derek from B.O.M Socks here with more B.O.M Bites, where we are feasting upon the words of Christ, one amazing bite at a time. So yesterday was kind of a part one of what I like to call good king, bad king. We see it happen in the Old Testament, we see it happen in the Book of Mormon, and we are seeing it happen in the Book of Ether as well. So the principle we talked about yesterday is that when we reject the words of a prophet, brother of Jared said, quote, "Surely this thing leadeth to captivity." The people wanted a king, and he said, that's not a good idea. But they wanted to be like everybody else, and so they decided, no, we're still going to have a king. And so, okay, they get a king. First guy's not too bad. We talked about him. His name is Oriha. In fact, I want to show you kind of a cool little chart here that's been put together by some professors down at BYU. I really love this because it shows you really kind of the progression of the good king, bad king right here. Just to show you what it says here. First of all, an explanation of it. It says, this chart shows the chronology of Jaredite kings referred to in the Book of Ether, their familial ties to each other, and whether they were righteous, unrighteous, or in the captivity all of their days, in the which case their moral character went unremarked. Mosiah attested to the ability of a king to influence his people for good or evil, which is one of the verses you read last time. Referring specifically to King Noah, he stated, "How much iniquity doth one wicked king cause to be committed? Yea, and what great destruction." Like I said, you read that last time. The main column on this chart gives the genealogy of Ether, the son of Coriantor, which runs back to Jared. This king list contains 30 names, from the Jaredite founder down to the prophet Ether, who was not a king, but whose name is on the book in the Book of Mormon, telling the history of the Jaredites. Conflicts with others who asserted their powers as kings are also listed. So let me show you this list here. I'm just going to kind of scroll through this. I'm sure you can actually find this online. If you search Jaredite kings, you should be able to pull this up here. But you look here, you start with the brother of Jared, and you go through, and we read about Oriah and Kib last time, how these guys were good dudes, had a lot of kids, and they were righteous. But then you have Korahor over here to the left, and you see a kind of a land of bad kings, but then you got some good ones here. But here they all are. And it shows this chart here. So the darker ones are righteous. The ones that just have the dark bar around them are unrighteous. The hashed mark has lived in captivity and so forth. But you see that going all the way down to Ether. So let me pull up some verses here to give you kind of some of the highlights and lowlights of some of these kings. So what I'd like you to do is this. I've taken some of the ones that I think have kind of some cool lessons to them. So go through, and I want you to just read through these verses here, and you can check out the good king, what they were able to do, and you see the bad king, what they were able to do. If a bad king is going to lead a people to wickedness, then a good king is going to lead people to righteousness. And so go through and read this, and we'll come back with a couple thoughts. Okay, so a couple of pretty noteworthy things as you get into the end of chapter 7 and chapter 8. You are introduced once again to secret combinations. You're introduced to a guy by the name of Achish, not a good dude at all. But you see the introduction of secret combinations to the point where in chapter 9, verse number 6, it says, "So great had been the spreading of this wicked and secret society that it corrupted the hearts of all the people." And so that's where you got some bad stuff going on there with the secret combinations, which our world today is certainly not immune to, and they are certainly out there as well in our world today. You get into chapter 10, you are introduced to a king by the name of Shez. These first few verses are kind of interesting. The first one, it says, Shez began to build up again a broken people. Boy, anytime you're building a broken people, much props to this guy. It says that he remembered the destruction of his fathers. He built up a righteous kingdom. He remembered what the Lord had done in bringing Jared and his brother across the deep. He walked in the ways of the Lord. In fact, there's another interesting story in this same chapter of chapter 10. You go down to verse number 9, you're introduced to a guy by the name of Morianton. In fact, you read this verse, it says, space of years, Morianton, he being a descendant of Riplikash, gathered together an army of outcasts. That's kind of an interesting thing. Went forth, gave battle to the people, gained power over the cities, so forth. He established himself as a king over the land. Verse 10, after he had established himself king, he did ease the burden of the people, by which he did gain favor in the eyes of the people, and they did anoint him to be their king. Verse number 11, And he did do justice unto the people, but not unto himself. Oh, that's a great instructive phrase. Because of his many whoredoms, wherefore he was cut off from the presence of the Lord. And so here's a guy who was a great king, but his personal life was an absolute mess. And because of that, he's cut off from the presence of the Lord. You can be an amazing leader, but still in your own life really have a messed up life. And so that's kind of what this guy was dealing with here. Anyway, there's a lot of crazy stories in these chapters. Bottom line, I think the message of the Old Testament people and the Jaredites and the people in the Book of Mormon, the Nephites, Lamanites, everything, what they didn't understand about this idea of having a king is that they already had one. In the book of Revelation, in fact, in the Doctrine and Covenants, there's a great one in the Doctrine and Covenants where the Lord actually says, the Lord shall be in their midst, and his glory shall be upon them, and he will be their king and their lawgiver. One of the things that we don't seem to get is if we will remember that Jesus Christ is King of Kings. And it seems like those who are the righteous kings always acknowledge Jesus Christ as greater than they are, as the greatest king. The ones who usually have the problems are the ones who take that power unto themselves. And so I love that idea there. So once again, a great lesson for us to listen to the words of a prophet and also to recognize that Jesus Christ is, in fact, the King of Kings. And how grateful I am for him. Anyway, I hope that message helps you out. These 2 days with the Kings have been kind of crazy, but tomorrow I got another message for you just to finish up these chapters for this week of Come Follow Me that I think you'll appreciate. You guys are wonderful. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing and sharing. Godspeed. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.